I really believe that that's what it is, bro. I think, let me check and make sure. I believe that I recorded an entire episode without anybody having any clue or idea that it was not recording. Like the video was recording, but the sound was not recording. And I was like, what the heck is going on here? I had no idea. Went back and replayed it. After an hour and a half, it was the most beautiful show ever. It's the most beautiful show. So great, so blessed. It would have been so great. It would have been perfect, man. And then I go back and I look at it, and the video is reporting without any audio. And I said, what in hell is going on? Quite literally, in hell is going on. And like, I don't know, it made me so mad. And then I go back and I look at it, I'm like, what's going on? I checked the mic. I just bought this mic for the precursor of it. I just bought this brand new mic. It's beautiful. I got the lights on there and everything. It's beautiful. It's like, let me make sure it's on, bro. Like for sure. It's beautiful and it's awesome and it's great and everything. And I mic tested it, I sound checked it and everything before the show ever started, and it was working perfectly. It was working fine. And then I went back and listened after the full recording, and there was no sound. And I'm like, what the heck is going on here? And then I try it again, except on the platform this time, and it works perfectly. And I'm like, what the heck is this? And everything's turned up on it, everything. And then I tried to make it a second time, and then I kept looking down, and I think I found out what it was. On the back of this mic, there is a beautiful mute button that comes in handy that's very nice and works very well, right? Like, you didn't hear anything that I was saying at all whatsoever because of the mute button on there. And that's awesome and everything. And it lets you know when it's on and when it's off because of the light. It shines on there. But the problem is that that thing is like super sensitive. Like it's not a normal regular button. Like when you look at this, like you see these knobs and everything, and you could turn and twist them and all this, or like a button that clicks down and lets you go click, 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 you know, like a regular button. But this one is like, it's like almost touchscreen, really, actually. It's almost like a touchscreen button, but it's like, but it's not on a screen, but it's touch screen because it's like you barely tap it, you barely touch it, and it turns it off and on. And I had no idea because it wasn't making a clicking sound. And when I was moving it to like adjust it like this, I was accidentally touching it with my thumb. And I'm pretty sure that's what it was. And it kept on muting it because I just discovered that the last time where I was moving, I looked down at the green and then I moved the mic around. I looked and I'm just sitting back and I see red. I'm like, what the heck is? I think that's what it was. So hopefully now everything has been adjusted to, everything has been perfected, and everything is Gucci. That would be awesome. And I guess we'll find out. And, you know, I already know it's like, bro, why are you not using the freaking, why are you not using the headset or using the earphones to hear yourself while you're on the mic? Yeah, I know, broski. I understand all of that. But, like, my headset, actually, I don't know. I have like 3 of them. 2 of them, I'm not sure where they are. My best and most appropriate one, which is the greatest set of headphones ever created, they broke after like a year and a half of constant use, like everyday use, 8 hours a day. They're very durable, but it's just that I used it that much. So they're broke. They broke. Finally gave out, and I got to get a new one. So I would have heard that. See, so you know, so I mean, if I had it on, I would have heard the it not working. You know, but whatever. Kind of figured, why do you even need that? And then like you're like, well, yeah, well, there you go. That's why. Stupid, bro. So we recorded this whole long episode and whatever, but you know what? It is what it is. It was great. It was wonderful. It was fun. It was awesome. It was a great episode. We really laid out everything the way it was supposed to be laid out. I really explained everything the way that it was supposed to be explained. And if we tried to replicate that again, it just would not happen. There's no way for us to make that happen again. If we tried to do it, it just wouldn't work. It just would not be it. So, whatever. So, whatever. But no. Unlike the victims, we don't cry around here. And the victim mentality. And we don't get rageful and say whatever, then I won't even, because that doesn't fix or solve anything. So around here we just kind of go with it. I guess we roll with the punches and just punch back harder the second time than we did the first time. I was talking about everything, bro. That was like, and I wasn't even like, it's crazy. That wasn't even like one of these super political episodes or anything either. It's crazy. It's like that was a pretty normal conversation. But whatever, it's okay. It's like maybe it's not even meant to be. I don't know. Maybe God himself said, "Nah, bro, I don't want you on this conversation topic. Let's switch it up a little bit real quick. I know it sounds really good to you, but then you're going to put it on there and then you're going to look back and be like, why the heck did I even put that on there? Why did I say that? So let me just go ahead and save you from that real quick and stop that from happening." You almost wonder sometimes if it's like that, though. And so whatever. You know what? So you know what it is, bro? I'll tell you what it is. Well, I recently was deplatformed from TikTok, of course. And the reason I was deplatformed from TikTok is because I said anything that's not true. No, it's because I said what is true. Yes, 100%, absolutely. TikTok got offended by the fact that I was telling the truth. Now, let me tell you why I got deplatformed from TikTok, which, was like, we actually had quite a bit of views on there. Really interesting, honestly. I'll tell you why I was deplatformed from TikTok. And, I sent an appeal and whatever else, and I send them an appeal and, they say they're looking at it, whatever it is. But, probably they're not even looking at it. Probably it's like, well, he's a Trump supporter. He's a MAGA man, and we hate him, and we hate white people. So just go ahead and kick him off the platform and never let him come back. And that's really what it is, right? So, and they'll probably say something different. Whatever they talk about, whatever else they talk about, you know what I mean? They'll try to Sydney Sweeney you. Oh my God, he's over here. You know what I mean? Just because of the fact that you're white and they hate you. That's really what it is. And so, which shows bitterness because of insecurity. But anyway, so let's continue. And the real thing is that, that's really what it is, though. Like, what it actually is, what I actually said, what got me kicked off of TikTok was that I said, I actually spoke out against white supremacy. Like, I spoke out against the KKK. Like, literally. I was talking about the fact that the Coast Guard recently took the swastika off of their list of hate emblems and hate symbols, like for the entire Coast Guard, which I think is crazy, right? That's insanity that that's even a thing. It's like, how do you live in a reality where that's even possible? But you know what? We do. And you almost feel like it's fake news, right? Like, oh, what is this, a CNN article or something? Like, this came from MSNBC. Like, you already know it's BS before you even hear it, right? But no, this was actually real. This is actually true. This actually did happen. You could verify that pretty easily. If you haven't heard of it, I'm surprised, because you think that the mainstream news media, as soon as they heard a real story, they would go nuts with it. But this actually happened. And since that happened, Donald Trump came out like almost the very next day and said that he had no idea that they were going to take that off of the Coast Guard and that nobody had informed him, which is, interestingly enough, I believe him 100%, but the thing is, like, why the Coast Guard thinks that it can make choices like that without the commander-in-chief's input in the entire conversation, I have no idea. Sounds like treason to me, but whatever. So do a lot of other things that nobody seems to have taken care of so far. And Pete Hegseth had no idea, and he's the head of the Department of War. You know, it's pretty crazy, but, you know. So I was talking about that and how crazy that was, right? I was condemning the fact that they would do that. And then, you know, everybody else pretty much did too. You know, it's kind of crazy. And then, like, not even a week or two afterwards, they reversed it, I believe. I've heard that they reversed it and put it back on there. Why would you ever take it off in the first place? Crazy. And I was speaking out about that and condemning it and condemning the rise of actual pro-Hitler, pro-Nazi rhetoric from people like Nick Fuentes, and not just Nick Fuentes specifically, obviously, right? You have the groypers, whatever you want to call them. And if you hear that word, you're like, oh, it's so funny. What's a groyper? I'm like, yeah, no, I feel you. I'm with you. I thought the same thing. The minute I heard that word, I was like, oh, what's a groyper? I don't know. I didn't know what that was. I was like, what is that? A groyper? A groper? Nick and his gropers? But it turns out that a groyper is a real thing. It's not a made-up term. And apparently it's like, well, it's what the fan base of Nick Fuentes calls themselves. They call themselves groypers. People that follow Nick Fuentes. Because, you know, whether this is true or not, I don't know. But Tucker Carlson says that Nick Fuentes is the #1 voice in the entire country for young men under whatever age it is. I don't even remember what age it is. Maybe under like 28 or something like that. And that's news to me because nobody I know has ever heard of Nick Fuentes before. I have no idea who Nick Fuentes is and had no idea who he was until everybody started talking about him on the Tucker Carlson show. Now he's all over the place, and his radio host has quadrupled in size as a result of that. Everybody's talking about him now. He was on Piers Morgan. He actually did an interview with Piers Morgan today. I saw it, some of it, not all of it. I actually, true story, turned it on because I was like, oh, this is going to be good. This is going to be hilarious, man. Like, like Piers Morgan. Like, oh my God. Right? Like, Piers Morgan is the most annoying news anchor on the face of the planet. I don't think that anybody gets more annoying than Piers Morgan. He is the most annoying newscaster I have ever seen in my life. And he's just annoying. And like, you can't even think of other words to describe him, right? Like, he's just that annoying. I mean, obviously you would use words like wrong about a lot of stuff. He doesn't know how to make tea, and he doesn't, this little English guy coming over here things that he could talk to the United States of America about gun violence. Like, yeah, come on now, bro. Like, come on. 1776. You already lost the war. Go back home, Redcoat. Anyways, so he's like the most annoying person ever. And, you know, sometimes, ever so often, he'll actually say a comprehensible thought, and you'll think to yourself, how did he muster together enough power and ability and enough brain cells to be able to come up with a coherent thought long enough to actually sound like he had a rational opinion? This is the idiot who, you know, he claims that, you know, whatever. I won't even get into all of it, you know. And this guy, Pierce, but in reality, he's a complete idiot. And 90% of the time, everything he says is like, what are you even talking about? Somewhere in left field somewhere. But the thing that makes Pierce so annoying is the fact that he doesn't know when he's wrong. You understand what I'm saying? Like, he's just, you know, just annoying. Like, he starts to try to get this attitude, and he starts to go, yeah. And he gets like this ugly look on his face, and he like tries to act like he's looking down on me. Oh, trust me, Pierce. You're not looking down on me. I'm looking down on you. I feel bad for you. I feel pity for you, Pierce, because how could you be that stupid? But, you know, and that's really maybe I think what annoys me the most about him so much, you know. And you see people like, now I saw that one show he had with Tucker Carlson, and I was like, finally, somebody that will put Pierce in his place. Like, shut this guy up. Like, for real, Pierce, like, shut up. And Tucker didn't put him in his place, ironically enough. I mean, because you'd think Tucker's so highly opinionated. Tucker was nice to him. Tucker was going easy on him. He was playing softball with him, you know, probably because of some stupid mutual respect of news anchors and don't embarrass Pierce Morgan on his own show and whatever stupid BS they come up with. Pierce Morgan, you know, I think people, you know, I think maybe Tucker and other people take for granted the fact that most people think that Pierce Morgan is a complete idiot. And then for that reason, they don't feel the need to put him in his place because they feel like, well, nobody listens to the nonsense that comes out of his mouth anyway. Why should I embarrass him on public TV? But you know what? They should do it anyways, just so that, you know, he needs to be reminded a little bit that he has no idea what he's talking about. But then I see him put Nick Fuentes on there. And I think, oh my God, this should be good. You know, this should be great because anytime Pierce Morgan invites anybody onto his show, it's because he's trying to, any like cultural figure or whatever, like Andrew Tate or whoever it is, anytime he puts anybody on the show, it's because he's trying to publicly humiliate them, right? He's trying to insult them and to grill them, and he thinks that he's going to make fun of them to the whole world, right? That's what he thinks, which is why someone needs to put him in his place. And so I'm like, oh, Nick Fuentes is on here. This should be good because what you have essentially is you have Pierce Morgan, the guy that never shuts up long enough to even hear his own self-talk. And then you have Nick Fuentes, who really just does not care what people think, right? Nick Fuentes really just doesn't care what people think. He believes that he's above and is above cancelization, that he cannot be canceled, and I think maybe he's even proven the fact that he can't be. And so he's not going to filter out what he has to think or say on Pierce Morgan, right? So I was like, this should be good. Turned on the interview, and I was like, this is going to be great, right? This is going to be hilarious. Like, Pierce Morgan is going to grill the heck out of this guy. And Nick Fuentes is going to, I don't know, maybe say whatever he thinks and actually grill Pierce Morgan back, right? Like, this should be entertaining. Like, where's the popcorn. And I haven't even seen the whole interview. I turned it on, and after the first 5, 10, 15 minutes, I literally fell asleep. Like, no offense to Pierce or even Nick Fuentes, but I fell asleep during the interview. But that's because I was like, I had so much else going on, and I was laying down on a bed when it turned on, and I was kind of already sort of tired, and I was waiting for the mail guy to get there, and I just kind of fell asleep. But I woke up back in the middle of it, and I'm still going to go back and watch the whole thing. And when I woke back up in the middle of it, I woke up during this one part where he was saying that he was basically calling Nick Fuentes like a little nerd boy. He was saying, I think you're a nerd. Like, right? He was talking about misogyny and sex. You have these unrationally misogynistic sexist views, and you say all these things about women, and you've never had a meaningful relationship with a woman before in your life. And really, the thing is that I think that you're like a little nerd boy, and maybe the problem is you and your groypers. You're just like, you represent a lot of men who have never go near a woman anymore, have never had a meaningful relationship with a woman before, ever. The statistics for that for men are higher than they've ever been, and I think you're like a little nerd boy who's just trying to get laid and he can't find a woman. And I thought to myself, oh my goodness, bro, that is so mean. Like, that is a straight up roast session right there. But you know what? That's Pierce Morgan. He's a roaster. Or, I mean, he tries to be. He attempts to be. And then I was like, that's hilarious, you know? I mean, I really genuinely thought that's probably the interesting thing about it is before the show started, I thought to myself, that is probably the angle that they are going to go for on that thing about Nick Fuentes, because I remember him saying something about how he had never lived with a woman or lived with women before or something like that. And I was like, yeah, they're going to go after that angle. They're going to be like, there's a little nerd boy who just can't get any women. That's his problem. Now, whether that's true or not, I mean, I have no idea. I don't know Nick Fuentes in real life. I don't know what his love life is like. I don't know anything about him. But it's easy hit, right? It's an easy thing to attack. You know, it's a convenient narrative. Self-inflicted almost, because Nick Fuentes is the one that gave them that ammunition in the first place, right? And then Nick Fuentes is like, no, that's not what this is. And I was like, oh, I woke up right in the middle of it getting good, broski. Like, I woke up right in the middle of it starting to heat up. It's pretty hilarious. But I had to go, so I had to turn it off. And I'm like, I'm definitely coming back. But I saw Nick Fuentes, and he's like, whoa, wait a minute. Why are you yelling at me, Pierce? Why are you yelling? Like, you need to calm down. This is an interview, and I came here willingly, and there's no need for you to scream. And I'm like, Nick, have you ever watched Pierce Morgan before? Like, do you know what this guy is like? Like, how could you ever go on the show and not expect for him to attack you? How could you go on the show and not expect for him to scream and yell and act like and literally try to blatantly insult you? That is the only thing that Pierce Morgan is capable of doing. I have never seen or heard Pierce Morgan make a rational thought or opinion or explanation for anything that he thinks, feels, or believes on any political spectrum at all whatsoever, except for the fact that when he's trying to insult other people and try to pretend that he's a big, strong man and he knows all about masculinity and all this other kind of nonsense. You know, I'm a big, strong, masculine man. Listen, Pierce, nobody on the face of the planet looks at you and thinks to themselves, that is a big, strong, masculine man. I can guarantee you that nobody thinks to themselves masculinity when they think of Pierce Morgan. That is the furthest thing from anybody's mind. I have never once equated the idea of masculinity to Pierce Morgan. It's never happened in my life. And, I don't hate Pierce Morgan. I really don't. It's not like a personal insult or something. It's not like, it's just that if you think that's the reason why people don't like you, Pierce, it's not. They don't like you because you say a whole bunch of gibberish and just kind of blatantly insult people and never let anybody say what they're actually thinking, because the truth of the matter is that maybe you really don't have that much to say. Maybe you really don't possess the ability to rationally put together the reason why you believe things, and for that reason you feel like you have to scream and yell over everybody else because you think it gets a big giant emotional reaction or whatever, which is what you're going for, because maybe you don't feel like you can defend your argument that well. That's really what I think. So, and you're definitely not, there's a big old, I am masculine, you're not masculinity. Yeah, at all. Nobody thinks that. Nobody thinks, oh no, Pierce Morgan, the gatekeeper of masculinity. Oh no, let's all be scared. Nobody looks at Pierce Morgan, the English redcoat man, who's afraid of guns, and comes to the United States of America, who handed his country their backside twice on a silver platter, 1776 and 1812, and tries to convince them to get rid of guns because they're scary, and then talks about like halfway liberal views half of the time, really actually does not see Islam and Muslims as a problem inside of London and the UK. He really doesn't think the fact that his own country now owns less property, less physical land in their own country than India. India now owns more physical land on the island of England than England does. And he doesn't think that that's a problem. He thinks that well, the only reason people think that's a problem is because of white supremacy. Pierce, you're a farce, bro. Like, come on, man. I don't even like England that much. Like, I'm not an English guy, right? I'm an American, right? And I'm not even English by blood either, right? Like, that's not in my heritage. But even I think to myself, I'm Irish. And even I think to myself, why would they allow the Muslims to totally dominate them like that and basically steal their whole country out from underneath them? That's insanity. That's really insane. And, of course, I'm sure, and I don't hate all English people. I really don't. Like Russell Brand, I love Russell Brand. Russell Brand is great. Russell Brand is awesome. I love Russell Brand. But the difference between Russell Brand and Pierce Morgan is, yeah, need I say any more? I don't think anyone would ever get those two confused at a party, right? No, this one's Russell. This one. Yeah, no, this one. Yeah, okay. Pierce Morgan the square and Russell the free spirit. Yeah, I'm sure they get along pretty well, don't they? Stupid, bro. I feel bad for Pierce Morgan. I think Pierce Morgan's delusional about his own state of consciousness, his own country. I think that he's delusional about his own self-importance and delusional about the fact that anyone else even thinks to themselves, Pierce Morgan's really offering some crazy philosophies, viewpoints, and statuses that we've never seen before. Like, whoa, everybody shut up and pay attention. Pierce Morgan knows what's going on. Oh yeah, let's go ask Pierce. Yeah. I don't know. I don't think anyone's ever done that before. But okay. And sometimes, like I said, ever so often, he accidentally copies and pastes a rational thought from another human being, and then you get shocked and surprised. So, but whatever. And Nick Fuentes goes on there. So I haven't seen the whole thing, so I don't know. I haven't seen the whole thing, so I have no idea how that went. But for that little short clip I was seeing there, man, I was like, this is about what I expected. This is what I knew was coming. Pierce is going to come on here and he's going to grill the heck out of this guy. And my real question is, how will Nick respond? Is Nick going to grill him back, or like what's going to happen here? Or is Pierce going to be a little coward and, press a little button and kick him off the show whenever he starts saying something that's a little bit too better than whatever's coming out of Pierce Morgan's mouth, right? Well, are you a fan of Nick Fuentes? You know what I mean? That's exactly what you would think, right? You said that, and then the first thing, are you a fan of Nick Fuentes? You're coming here to defend Nick Fuentes and Adolf Hitler? It's like, when did the word Adolf Hitler ever come out of their mouth? That's weird. That's a strange thought to throw into the conversation because you don't have a rational thought for what I just said, right? But I actually am not a fan of Nick Fuentes. But that doesn't change the fact that Pierce Morgan is a complete buffoon, right? I mean, prove me wrong. Prove me wrong. Change my mind. Let's see if Pierce ever puts together rational thoughts and changes my mind. Yeah, I doubt that's ever going to happen. So I haven't seen the rest of the interview, but it should be funny, man. I don't really expect it to be much different than that. And I don't understand why Nick Fuentes is like, well, why are you yelling? I'm on the show. I'm like, I get it. Maybe you're trying to be a little bit, you're trying to be whatever the word is, human or personable or whatever you want to call it. But if you've ever seen anything with Pierce Morgan in it at all ever, you know that when you go on that show that you're basically going to be getting into a boxing match. Like, you're going to get into a street brawl, a literal street brawl, no holds barred, MMA style brawl out in the middle of the street in the alley somewhere while you're basically trying to gut each other with a fork. I mean, that's really what it is, right? I mean, that's what you're getting into. It's like jumping into a coliseum or something. Except instead of lions and gladiators, you have an English guy with a stick up his backside who really actually is delusional enough to believe that everybody else can clearly see that he's the one that's not wrong. He's the one that's right. Exactly. So, I mean, that's what I think of Pierce. I've always thought that about Pierce. And then in that Tucker interview, Tucker Carlson really should have put him in his place, but, he didn't, whatever. And then Tucker Carlson invites Nick Fuentes on his show, and that's when I learned who Nick Fuentes was. And the Groypers, didn't even know that was a thing. Apparently, the Groypers are like this group of young men or whatever. I don't know anybody that has ever heard of Nick Fuentes in my entire life. I have no idea who that guy is. No idea who he was until everyone got mad that he was on Tucker Carlson. And then I look back and find out like he had been on like other shows before. Like, why did they go so crazy when he hops on specifically Tucker Carlson? Like, I don't know. And they say, well, it's a softball question or what? I don't know. I mean, I don't know because I don't know the guy. I don't know. I never seen him anywhere before. But now I go back, and now that he's popping up all over the place, like all of a sudden I see interviews from like 6 months ago, 7 months ago, and these are like not small accounts. And I'm like, oh, so like people knew who this guy was, right? Yeah. Like a picture with Marjorie Taylor Greene. And I'm like, okay. And now recently he's been on the Alex Jones show. And we love Alex Jones, so, there's no hate there. But, it's like, you see all these things happening, and you're like, oh, well, I don't know. Why'd they get so mad at Tucker when he was there? I don't know. But, and I understand why people would like be enthralled by Nick Fuentes and all of the stuff that comes out of his mouth when he says things like Team Hitler and, denying the Holocaust, and he looks up to Joseph Stalin and all this other kind of crazy stuff. With that being said, whether that's really what he thinks or believes or he's making a joke out of it and he's trying to allude to some sort of political humor to try and like convince people that the political spectrum has become so ridiculous that, you know what I mean? Maybe, and I kind of maybe feel like that's the reason why he does that. He's like a troll, you know what I mean? He's like the ultimate troll. Now, I don't agree. And then, and then that creates this like blurry line between what is it that you actually think and believe and what are you doing just to get attention, right? And I think that Pierce Morgan, that's what he said too, right? In the beginning of that interview, he, in all fairness, he said, I'm here trying to figure out if you really believe what you believe or if you're just trying to pretend to say that you believe something that you don't believe. And whatever that may be. You know what I mean? I don't understand if you actually believe what you believe or if you're just pretending to believe it. And that's why I brought you onto my show so that I can determine for myself whether or not you actually believe it. And whatever other, I said, mate, is I don't really know if you actually believe what you're saying or if you're just trying to get people to listen to what you're saying. And are you gay? Are you nerd boy having trouble getting laid? And that's the reason why you say all these misogynistic, sexist things? Is that what it is? You little nerd boy, and you can't get no women, so you come on a show and you say all these sexist, misogynistic things because you really cannot get women like that. Is that what it is, boy? Or are you just a little bit too fruity? Is it hard for you to ever go near a member of the opposite sex? And that's the reason why you always have to be the way that you are. You make up lies about them, like having fantasies of being kidnapped and beyond and beyond their free will and whatever else it may be, because you yourself have never been able to get a woman with free will, and maybe those are your fantasies that you're actually projecting onto everybody else. Is that what it is? Right? I mean, it's right? Like, that's basically what Pierce Morgan is saying, right? Like, that's who you are, Nick. You're just like you're secretly a flaming homosexual. Now, whether or not that's true or not, no, I don't think that's true. I don't think that he's secretly a flaming homosexual, but I think that, he does obviously say some pretty crazy stuff about women and everybody, every single demographic you could possibly think of. And it's like, well, but how much of that is him trolling and how much of that is like what he actually believes, right? But with that being said, I also understand that it can be quote unquote dangerous. Or let me put it differently. I think that I could understand why people would use the word quote unquote dangerous, right? I could see why people would think it's dangerous for this guy to get some traction and for people to start listening to what he's saying. Because he's an actual far-right Nazi. He's actually a white supremacist. Like, he really actually believes that we need to have a second Holocaust. Like, what's wrong with this guy? Like, he's nuts, right? And I can see why people would think to themselves, it's a little worrisome that someone like this gets platformed overnight like this. So that brings me back to the reason why I got kicked off of TikTok in the first place. On TikTok, I was basically saying, I was agreeing with the fact that Nazism and neo-Nazism is wrong and that it's a danger to society and that white supremacy and the KKK is ridiculous. And I talked about the swastika being taken off from the Coast Guard, and that tends to show that there is some sort of rise of far-right, pro-Hitler, radicalized ideologies, or what some people are calling the woke right, or the alt-right, or whatever you call it. And then some people say the woke right, I think that's funny. I like that one. I think I might start having to use that one. I'm gonna have to start using the woke Reich. The woke Reich, because it's just too hilarious. It's too perfect. I don't think you could try all day to try find something better and more hilarious than that one, but I don't think that you can. I think that really is kind of like does say it like exactly like it is, right? Like that's the perfect wordplay. The woke Reich. But it's kind of true though. I mean, I can see why people would call it that, but here's the thing though. Like I said, this is what got me kicked off of TikTok. I basically said I was agreeing that a woke Reich is nonsensical. It shouldn't happen. This is a wrong thing. Like, it shouldn't be a thing. We shouldn't be praising and hailing Adolf Hitler. Like, we don't want a second Holocaust. We don't want to recreate the atrocities of World War II in Nazi Germany. We don't want to have an actual Adolf Hitler rise to power, right? Like, that's a horrible thing. And in the essence of talking about that, I said that what we're witnessing now, the rise of the woke Reich, is a result of not a result of Donald Trump. See, here's where you got to understand. People are going to claim, and they are claiming, and this is what the woke Reich claims, right? That all of this that's happening is a direct and complete reaction to Donald Trump and MAGA and the things that he's done. And they say this is a result to that. Donald Trump's not really what we wanted him to be. He's not really America first. He's pro-Israel, and he's doing HB1 visas, and he's doing this with certain Islamic countries and whatever else it might be, and blah 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 blah. And that's Nick Fuentes' big talking point right there, isn't it? That's a lot of people on the woke Reich's talking point, right? And that's what they kind of want you to believe, right? That's what Marjorie Taylor Greene, I call her Majorie Taylor Greene. Marjorie Taylor Greene, yeah. That's right. Marjorie Taylor Brown. Maybe that's what I should call her. Or Margarine Turns Brown. Margarine Taylor Brown. I mean, that's what Donald Trump called her, isn't it? Brown, because green grass turns brown. Margarine, because margarine's not real butter, so margarine Trader Brown. Is that good? That brings Donald Trump's green to brown, and then brings Loomer to that brings her trader word there, and then I add my own word, which is margarine, because butter is where it's really at, and margarine's the fake version of butter. So I can't believe it's not butter. I can't believe it's not MAGA. I can't believe it's not a Republican. I can't believe it's not American First. Margarine Trader Brown. So that's one of her big talking points as well, right? Like, this is a reaction to Donald Trump and what Donald Trump has done. That's what they want you to believe. The honest, actual truth of the matter is that they are not rising as a result of Donald Trump. They are rising, or as a result of Israel and the Jews or any of that nonsense. They are rising as a result of Black Lives Matter. They are rising as a result of anti-white racism, as a result of people like Sydney Sweeney being completely attacked. And I talked about this in the last episode, and it was such a perfect episode, but the mic wasn't recording. I think it is now. We'll see, right? So I think I didn't hit the mute button this time. Okay, so the thing is that they're rising as a result of people like Sydney Sweeney being accused of white supremacy just because they made an ad about jeans, an ad about blue jeans, and they have blonde hair and blue eyes. They happen to have white skin and made an ad about blue jeans. Therefore, white supremacists. Right? That's the woke reaction. That's the far left woke reaction, correct? And then they try to nail Sydney Sweeney, right? And she doesn't say anything, and she's very smart, very wise for doing that. It was very smart, very wise. Couldn't have done it any better. It was the first time anybody has shown any spine in the public sphere, like since this whole thing started, really. And American Eagle, good on them as well, doubling down, and and their stocks rose. Oh yeah, well, would you look at that? Crazy. And then they tried to pin her in that interview, right? And that stupid, nonsensical woman who tries to act like, I'm Sydney Sweeney's friend. I'm so cool and I'm so popular and I'm the most trendy thing on the face of the planet. That's how I got the job. That's why I'm an interviewer, because everyone knows how cool I am when they're home and they look at me and say, wow, that's a cool girl. That's how I got the job. Not because I'm a hired, paid loyalist to whatever boss runs the network, and I constantly propagate, far left nonsense down people's throats. That's not the real reason I got the job, and the only reason why they put me in charge of the Sydney Sweeney interview in the first place, because we're the first interview that she's had since the entire thing dropped, right? But it's because I'm really concerned about the fact, because I'm your friend, Sweeney, even though we probably only met 5 or 10 minutes ago and we're just starting this interview now. And I just wanted to give you maybe a chance to talk about the fact that everybody's calling you a Nazi, a white supremacist. So do you kind of want to talk about that? Are you a Nazi and a white supremacist? Do you secretly hail Hitler in the closet when no one's looking? Did those blue eyes and that blonde hair accidentally make you come out of the womb a racist? Like, do you want to talk about your problem with racism? And Sydney Sweeney's reaction is literally, if I didn't talk about this since it's happened, why would I talk about it now? And do you really actually expect me to believe that you really believe that I'm a white supremacist because I made a jean ad? That's literally Sydney Sweeney's reaction. Into which those, has to play it off like the idiot she is, like the imbecile that she is, okay? Like the paid, hired actor that she is, just like every single person that ever winds up in front of a microphone on mainstream media or in front of any network in this entire country. They're all they're either communists themselves, and most of them probably aren't even. They just do it because they have to, or they'll get fired and go hungry. Or what it actually is, they're a bunch of paid actors that will suck up. They're a bunch of doormats that get walked all over, have no spine, and will do whatever it takes to be in the spotlight because they're afraid to have any views of their own. That's what it really is. So they're paid actors, and they anything that it takes to get to the top, I guess, right? And they say all these things, and Sydney Sweeney's reaction is, whenever the American public has an issue that I want them to know about, then I'll tell them about it. Yeah. And she's right for that. And, very wise. Now, calling it jeans, Jeans, right? Not Genes. The actual ad was jeans. Like, we realized that, right? Like, it really actually was blue jeans. Not Gens, right? Like, we're not confused about that. Like, they said that it was talking about genes, Genes, but the actual ad was genes, Jeans. Like, we realize that, right? Like, we're not delusional to the point where we're now seeing words where they don't exist, right? And now, 10 years ago, that kind of a public reaction would have never happened, right? Like, everybody knows that. And that's because Black Lives Matter is filled with a bunch of racist, far left, communistic color revolution lunatics that want to murder all white people and are filled with bitterness and hatred and, you know, what it really is. And they all hate white people and they're mad and they feel kind of insecure about the fact that there's just white people in this world that are also great. Kind of like the Babylon Bee said. They're offended that a great white shark won the race today, but it's not because it was a great white shark. It's because the shark was both great and white, right? Yeah, like that's really what it is. And Black Lives Matter wants to live in a fake alternate universe where there's no such thing as great white people. And they want everybody else, they want to be coddled and handled with care and have everybody around them tell them, there's no such thing as great white people, BLM. Like, it's okay. Here's a pacifier and suck on my thumb and be a baby and not listen to the real world. It'll all be okay, I promise. Pat them on the head. Blah, 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 bunch of nonsense, right? And as a result of that, they randomly attack Sydney Sweeney. And, you know, they kill white people in the middle of the Black Lives Matter riots. Still no justice for that. And I already explained this whole thing in the last episode about the fact that the Black Lives Matter riots being allowed to do that is the worst thing for everybody, for society as a whole, obviously, but also the worst thing for the black community on the face of the planet, right? And Candace Owens and Charlie Kirk were trying to explain that because it plays into the stereotypes that you know, that the stereotypes that the far left black liberals claim that they're fighting. I'm fighting the stereotype of people thinking that black people are thugs and thinking that black people are all a bunch of thieves and, you know, whatever other stupid nonsense they come up with. I highly doubt that anybody even actually really believes that. I don't think anybody walks down the street and sees somebody that looks like Steve Urkel, little nerdy boy, and really actually thinks to themselves, oh, yeah, Steve Urkel, you got to watch out for that guy. Like, he's going to slit your throat in your sleep and steal all your things. Like, you got to really watch your back on him. Like, nobody does that. Nobody does. That's a delusional fantasy. Nobody believes it. Okay? Now, well, they might not believe it about all black people, but maybe they believe it about the multitude or some black people. Maybe. That could be true. There probably, possibly is people that are like that. But if you really believe that and your genuine motivation is we have to stop people from thinking that about black people, then the answer is not to go ahead and murder people and act like someone who does exactly what you said that you're trying to destroy the stereotype of. Right? And the thing is, though, well, nobody became a radicalized leftist who goes around killing people as a result of Black Lives Matter. That may be true. That may be true. But that's not the point. The point is that what Black Lives Matter does is it takes the very worst of the black community and pushes them to the forefront and makes them, not only does not condemn them for that nonsense, but also celebrates it perpetuates it and says these people are the voice for the black community. And if you disagree with that, that's because you're a white supremacist. Basically, what Black Lives Matter says is that black people all believe in violence, pillaging, and looting. And if anybody disagrees, it's because they're trying to exterminate black people, because they're really trying to exterminate violence, looting, and rioting. But that's who we are, so that also means exterminate black people. Like, that's what BLM says, right? That's essentially what BLM wants you to believe. Like, that's essentially the argument that they're making. And it's a complete, the problem is, right, most black people do not believe that rioting and looting and murdering innocent people is probably a good thing, right? Yeah, like most black people, most white people, most Asians, and most everybody else, anybody that's not an evil human being, thinks to themselves, that's probably not a good thing. We don't want that. We got to get rid of that. That's a bad thing. Exactly. And where people should unify, right, is on the subject of we got to get rid of that, right? Which is the whole reason why the KKK and David Duke and actual white supremacy has been banished to the shadow realm, right? Is been deplatformed, and it's the reason why David Duke doesn't have a late night talk show on the mainstream news media networks, because he's been banished to the shadow realm, right? Now, we as a society understand that David Duke and the KKK and white supremacy it should be banished to the shadow realm. The proof of that is that David Duke doesn't have his own talk show on mainstream news media networks, and people aren't walking around with white hoods in the bright daylight, right? Now, the problem is that if you want to end racism, like you say that you do, then the only answer is that we must reject all fringe radical groups that would perpetuate any form of racism against all groups. Now, if you believe that, then that means that BLM and the far left woke radical black liberals like Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson and so it's such and such and whoever else fits into that category, they have to be rejected and banished to the shadow realm and seen as in the same exact wavelength as your David Dukes and your KKKs. Now, when you celebrate Black Lives Matter's atrocities, when you don't condemn them, what you're doing is that you are working to say it's an insult to the black community to say that non-thugs should be the voice of the black community. How dare you? That's what you're saying, right? And as a result of that, if your real, true, actual motivation was to destroy these so-called stereotypes of the black community, then you're actively pursuing the exact opposite outcome of perpetuating those stereotypes by either, one, actually being the stereotype that you perpetuate, if you're actually a thug and a killer and you want death to all white people. But we leave them out of it because those people are clowns. We don't really ever think about them anyways, right? They're not in the rational conversation. They're not coherent enough. They can't put two brain cells and IQ points together long enough for them to have a rational conversation, for them to even be involved in the political talk, right? So what we're actually talking about is people that are not like that, but celebrate those people and push them to the forefront as the voice to make the illusion as all of these people speak for the black community, and there is no black community outside of these people, right? I mean, that's the illusion. That's just as dangerous as putting David Duke or the KKK at the forefront and saying these people speak for the white community, and anything that goes around and doesn't disannul or disavoid them, is speaking for the white community, and that's who we are, and that's our cultural image. And if anybody comes up against these people, it's because it's an attack on the white community, right? That's exactly what BLM is. If anybody attacks these group of radicalized nuts, then it's an attack on the black community, right? I mean, it's just such a load of crap, bro. And everybody knows it. And the truth is that when you don't handle that nonsense, this is the point I'm trying to make, bro. And I already explained the whole last episode that you have to get rid of the far left. You have to get rid of wokeism. You have to get rid of DEI. We already know all that. Everybody kind of knows that. We have to get rid of Black Lives Matter and the nonsensical bull that comes out of their mouth, right? And that's what Candace Owens used to always say. It's what Charlie Kirk said. It's the truth. You have to destroy that. You have to purge it from society because it's a radicalized hate group. That's exactly what it is. Now, the thing is that if you actually want peace, like you say that you do, like an old school liberal, like I explained, like I'm an old school liberal, right? Colorblind society, just like Bill Maher. And I talked about Bill Maher, and, I respect the fact that Bill Maher isn't too cowardly to say that out of his mouth. The only person in the Democrat Party left that hasn't lost their mind, maybe besides Fetterman. All the rest of us jumped ship. I used to be a Democrat, by the way. I was raised a Democrat and voted, and, I was too young to vote, but I supported Barack Obama for 2 terms. And, I jumped off the ship in 2016, similar to Candace Owens' story about how I saw how the Democratic Party was just trying to control everybody and blah, 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 blah. And the rest of us have already jumped ship right now. I've been with Trump since 2016. And now you have your Elon Musk, RFK Jr., Joe Rogans, Tulsi Gabbards, and so on and so forth, right? If you want to get to the place of a colorblind society, then what you have to do is you have to remove all forms of radicalization. Now, people already understand they've removed the forms of radicalization when it comes to David Duke and the KKK, right? But if you want a colorblind society, you have to remove the radicalization of BLM and Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton and Malcolm X. And that's just a fact. That's just the truth. Anybody that wants a colorblind society cannot perpetuate these people. Malcolm X used to get into debates with Martin Luther King Jr. on live TV in front of everybody, and they used to argue about the fact that Malcolm X said that MLKJ was wrong because he refused to blame straight white men for the black community's problems. That's essentially what he said out of his own mouth. And MLKJ said, no, Malcolm X is wrong because you can't blame straight white men for the black community's problems. People are people essentially everywhere you go, right? And you have to, I agree with MLKJ. To me, that's just obvious, right? That's like something that's so obvious that you probably should not even have to say it. And Malcolm X was radicalized. And the Jesse Jacksons and the Al Sharptons of the world and BLM is Malcolm X, right? It is the second coming of Malcolm X instead of the second coming of MLKJ, right? And as a result of that, what happens is And as I explained, this is what got me kicked off of TikTok. This is what I was saying, exactly what I'm saying here, that the pendulum always swings in one direction or the other, right? It always swings. It's like a giant gang war, right? That's what it is. It's a gang war, it's a color war, whatever you want to call it, where you killed my cousin back in 92, so F your truce, right? It's essentially, that's what it is on a global scale, right? A turf war, which is insanity, but that's what it is, right? And so the pendulum always swings unless you stop the pendulum from swinging, correct? And that's pretty much, I already know, you already know, everybody already knows that's what MLKJ's core philosophy was, that you got to stop the pendulum from swinging, and that's really what solves the problem. That's what solves that problem, right? And that's the truth. Now, the thing is, though, that the problem with Black Lives Matter and the far left and the woke and Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton and all those crazy, nonsensical black liberals, because everybody always likes to say, oh man, them crazy white liberals, they're so nuts. And that's true. They are. They're crazy. The crazy white liberals. But unlike those cowardly people who only mention white liberals, the crazy black liberals, who are just as insane as the crazy white liberals, and the crazy whatever else, Hispanic liberals and whoever else it is, they're all a bunch of lunatics, every last one of them. Those people, they think, and it's not really what they think, it's just what they perpetuate, what they pretend to think, is that the pendulum swings and we have to stop it from swinging. And the way that we do that is that we only swing it one direction, and that's directed towards white people for now. But it could be directed towards anybody with that type of a philosophy. You understand what I'm saying? But that's how you end it. That's the exact opposite of truth, right? That is called the pendulum swinging. And the pendulum always swings back. So when you think that way, when you refuse to get rid of fringe groups, it will always swing back, and it will always radicalize the other side. And then you create the gang war that you claim that you're trying to stop from happening because you're so morally superior and self-righteously better than all of us, and we just can't handle the fact that the liberals are really the moral aptitude of all that is righteous, right? Like, that's the way that they act, right? Oh no, he just doesn't understand. Don't you know that we're like the definition of morality? We just cut kids' genitals off, and we say death to all white people, and we want to, and when Charlie, we murder people like Charlie Kirk, and we try to kill Donald Trump, and we throw people in the gulag that are political adversaries. We advocate for the death of all of our political enemies. We instill racial hatred and division. We want to murder everybody. We refuse to acknowledge injustice when it's in front of our face, and we definitely refuse to bring actual justice to it. And can't you just see the beautiful morality? Can't you understand the fact that, like, when Charlie Kirk was alive, because we killed him, that when he asked a bunch of liberals, hey, can I stand by your white supremacy sign? Because they had a sign that said, we hate white supremacy. And Charlie Kirk said, I agree. Can I stand beside your sign? On video. And they said, no, you can't do that. He said, why not? I hate white supremacy too. They said, no, you can't do that. And then he said, why? I mean, if you're really trying to end white supremacy, wouldn't it be awesome to have all of us stand right beside that sign and end it? And they're like, no. And that's like, oh, that's right. Because you get to gatekeep who is or who isn't a white supremacist, even if they outspokenly out of their mouths condemn white supremacy. Wow, crazy. And that's the definition of self-righteous hypocrisy. And that's what Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton and Black Lives Matter, that's essentially what they are, the definition of self-righteous hypocrisy. There is nothing in their entire life that is like useful. Nobody would ever listen to a word that they say. I'm not even so sure people listen to what they say now. Like, you look at the ratings for these people, it's not really like they got the biggest audiences in the world, you know. The only reason they haven't been fired is because they're black and because the studio has to perpetuate this narrative. And if they get rid of Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson, then that whole thing is going to start come crashing down like it's going out of style, right? And so as a result of that, they create this self-righteous narrative of we're just trying to end all racism. That's what it is. We just hate racism. So death to all white people because of our bitter hatred towards whites, to get rid of all racism. Yeah, and you know, it's a load of crap. So, and I said on TikTok basically what I just said. It's a load of crap. And what I really said, what really got me kicked off, was that I was explaining to the kindergartners that if the pendulum swings one way, it will always swing the other way, and that this woke Reich nonsense that you're starting to see emerge, with them removing the swastika from the Coast Guard and all this other nonsense, blah, 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 that is not a result of Donald Trump like they claim it is. That's a direct result of Black Lives Matter. That is because there has been no justice attributed to the injustices that have been perpetuated as a result of Black Lives Matter, right? And what it does is it causes the pendulum to swing back. And now you see people are like, well, maybe it's not so bad. Because look, they say maybe it's not so bad to bring back radicalized white supremacy, right? Because like I said, if you want to get rid of radicalization, you want to get rid of racism, then what you do is you have to banish all racism to the shadow realm. You banish KKK, David Duke, and white supremacy so far. Good, great, good riddance to them. Never let them come back. Now what you have to do is you have to ban Black Lives Matter, anti-white racism, Bullock's nonsense about white people and everything else you could think of under the sun, just complete nonsensical mess. You have to ban the far left's woke death to all white people agenda. And then when you ban both, now get this, it's really hard to believe, guys. I'm going to stick with me for a second here. I know this is really hard to believe, and maybe this one's going to blow your mind, but that's how you get rid of racism. Shh. Don't tell nobody, but shh, it's a secret. It's between you and me. That's how you do it. When you get rid of radicalized fringe groups of racism, on all accounts, that's when I'm just having this revelation here, guys. It's all coming to my mind all at once. That's how you get rid of racism. Wow. It's not like every single group of people in the entire history of the world thus far, including MLKJ and Jesus Christ, said that exactly right there. Wow. That the heroes of yesterday that we all claim to support. Yes, peace and love on earth and that their core philosophy of the how is actually how you get to their worldview of what? Do you understand what I'm saying, man? So, like, as a result of that, then the opposite must be true. Because a balanced scale is quite literally that. It's a balanced scale. So that means it doesn't go this way or that way. Otherwise, it's an imbalanced scale. So if you swing the pendulum one direction, it always swings, wait for it, may even take some time. Boom, there it is, knocks over the domino. Always swings back. And as a result of that, if you don't get rid of anti-white racism and perpetuated stereotypes and BLM and all this far left liberal garbage, if you don't get rid of that, you eventually will see, because it's just a way that it goes. It's a law of nature. The pendulum always has to swing back. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. It's just the way that it works. Until someone removes the pendulum. So if you keep it biased in one direction but not the other, what happens is instead of moving towards the goal of, okay, well, we already got rid of the KKK and David Duke and banished them, let's also banish the Black Panther Party and BLM, right? Instead of going the whole way and banning the entire radicalized notion to make things just and equal and go and advance closer and closer towards a colorblind society, what you do is, if you decide to keep one, it's kind of like a group of roaches or something, right? It's like a group of termites in your house. If I get rid of half the mound, or even if I were to get rid of 99% of that mound, and I left just one little roach or one little termite or whatever it may be, it's always going to swing back. It does not result in the removal of that one roach or termite. I just ended it there, and then he goes and he leaves by himself too, and now everything's great. That's not how it works. How it actually works is that now he is going to cause the equal and opposite reaction of bringing back the termite mound and bringing back the roaches. And the next thing you know, I have a total infestation once again. That's how it works. So when you don't denounce the Black Panther Party and you don't denounce anti-white racism and radical far-left woke ideologies perpetuated by and you don't denounce Black Lives Matter and all this fringe nonsense, when you don't banish it to the shadow realm, it doesn't remove racism. It brings back the summoning, if you would, of the side that you already banished. And then all of a sudden, the KKK is not so radical. And white supremacy is not so radical. And maybe Adolf Hitler wasn't that radical. I predicted that would happen. I literally said, during the height of the entire Black Lives Matter, I said, this has to be dealt with, because I saw that nobody was dealing with it except a few, maybe like Candace Owens and like Charlie Kirk and like people that aren't spineless. And I was trying to warn society, like, it's just so pathetic, and pathetic by all standards, right? Pathetic by all people of every race and every group of people that understands, that's not radicalized and understands that the truth is MLKJ, right? Or Jesus Christ, or, whatever. Colorblind society. That's the truth. The JFK truth. right? Everybody that knows that, all human beings, believe it or not, that know that it's pathetic for them to sweep it under the rug and let the next generation have to deal with it and let their children and grandchildren have to deal with it. It's pathetic of them. And it really is the reason why you are where you are right now, because nobody started to deal with anti-white racism like 20, 30, 40 years ago. Yeah. Unpopular conversation topic. Absolutely true. And as a result of that, now you have this. When you didn't deal with that nonsense, it comes into this. And if you don't deal with this nonsense, you're teaching people radicalization is the answer. And then what that does is it brings back white supremacy. And I said that. I predicted it would happen. But I thought that maybe it would be a little bit more down the road, like 10, 15, 20 years from now. But I didn't assume that it would come out this far, this quickly, this soon, and it did. And now you see the Coast Guard removes the swastika from its list of hatred symbols. And nobody says a word. Nobody bats an eye. Oh, well, you know. And that's because, well, there's been so much anti-white racism. Why should anybody care about this? Right? I mean, that's the way that people think. I don't think that way, but that's the way that people think. I think that that's crazy, but it doesn't matter what I think, because I'm just me. The people are the majority. It matters what they think. And here we go, right? And now you see this rise of the Nick Fuenteses of the world. Well, I'm Team Hitler. And, you know, I look up to Joseph Stalin, and the Holocaust didn't really happen. And, you know, the problem is this and that and the other thing. You start to see the rise of these people, right? And I don't agree with any of that, right? Like, I think that that's all crazy. Absolutely nuts. But it doesn't matter, because now Nick Fuentes' radio show has quadrupled. Now, and I'm also not even saying that Nick Fuentes actually believes that, right? Because, you know, you can see Nick Fuentes, that's not what I actually believe. Now, look, I'm not even saying that's what Nick Fuentes actually believes. I understand that that's, you know, language to get people to listen, right? And a lot of it has to do with like a satirical sense almost. I understand that. But the same can't be said for a lot of people who hear that and say, oh, that's what I believe. Do you understand what I'm saying? So even though, and I'm, you know, even though there's people that might listen to Nick Fuentes and say, he's just a big troll, right? You're also going to have a whole lot of people that are like, but, you know, well, I'm a white supremacist. You know, they might say that they're an actual white supremacist and that they actually believe that. And so as a result of that, that's going to create a reemergence of actual pro-Hitler rhetoric. And someone says, there's no way. The Coast Guard just removed the swastika from the levels of hate symbols. They got pushed back on it, and then they put it back on there and said, oops, we didn't, but they attempted it. They actually attempted to do that. You realize that, right? And so my entire message and what I put on TikTok and what, you know, got me banned and suspended, and, you know, you try to appeal, but, you know, they're probably not even looking at, who cares? The truth is that they're just a bunch of hateful nonsenses, and they all want you to burn to the ground anyways, and they're mad about the fact that I was telling people how to solve the problem and stop it from happening, because they really kind of low-key want you to burn as well. And that's what it actually is. And, you know, Donald Trump should really look into that, because, come on, Trump, like, you force TikTok that they have to buy, that they can't even be in America unless you buy TikTok out. So you should also tell them, and that also means that you can't censor anything in the United States anymore, and say that everybody has to shut up and not say what they really believe, right? So I got banned because I was saying that if you want to stop the pendulum from swinging, that you have to ban both Black Lives Matter and the KKK. So the accusation. See, and now this is what's crazy to me. If TikTok and BLM and the far left and Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton and all of those lunatics, if they really wanted to stop white supremacy, why would they be angry at me for literally speaking out against white supremacy? Crazy, isn't it? It's almost like they have a hidden agenda. It's almost like they're a bunch of far left